Hi, and welcome to Family Justice Center Presents. We have Sandy Pricer, who's going to be talking about healthy teen dating. And Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month is in February. So I know that we've got some cool events planned. But for now, we are going to talk about healthy teen dating and this month of Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Gina. I also have with me today Marissa Player Montgomery with the Tennessee Commission on Children and Youth. I always mess that up. I think I got it right, though. Did I get that right, Marissa? So she's going to be helping me share today about some teen dating violence statistics, information, and just some domestic violence awareness in general as well. And then on the back end, one of the events that Dina talked about a little bit is our summit and our Girls Leadership Summit. So we're going to talk about that some too. So I'm going to share my screen so that we can watch this lovely PowerPoint. All right. So teen dating violence awareness. And again, I'm Sandy Pricer, and I am the CEO and founder of RiseUP Cooperative, here with Marissa Player Montgomery with the Tennessee Commission on Children and Youth. And just really quick, Marissa and I are going to kind of bounce back and forth and maybe tennis ball this a little bit. We haven't practiced it, so bear with us. But overall, we generally know what teen dating violence and domestic abuse is on the surface level, right? Teen dating violence is the physical, psychological, or sexual abuse, harassment, or stalking of any person. And domestic violence is the willful intimidation, physical assault, battery, sexual assault, and or any other abusive behavior. And in the little picture there, it obviously doesn't have any regards to gender or race or socioeconomics. Is there anything you want to add on this slide, Marissa? You can jump in at any time.
I will say that we've seen an increase statewide when it comes to dating violence with our super younger babies, like our babies that are in elementary school even. We've had several fifth graders across the state discuss how someone is making them feel uncomfortable by touching them in certain areas and stuff like that. So like Sandy said, it's dating violence is not biased. It can affect anyone at any age, anytime.
That's so sad. So here are a couple examples of abuse. So to get more on the underneath that surface level of that just plain definition, I mentioned physical abuse, verbal abuse, and emotional and psychological, but it can also be isolation or intimidation. I mentioned stalking, but that's one that a lot of people don't think about. Sexual violence, wrongful usage of technology. I know that there are more that I didn't add to this list, but I'm pretty sure this list would be quite long if I had put all of them. In this little picture here, it says that so often teens think that some of these behaviors like teasing or name calling are normal parts of a relationship, but they can often lead to abusive relationships too, and more serious forms of violence. And so many times teens don't understand when they're in a healthy or unhealthy relationship. Maybe it hasn't been modeled at home. Maybe they don't have anybody in their life that is in a healthy relationship to know the difference. So this screen has a slide has a lot going on. So bear with me. There are lots of red flags to know if you or your teen or somebody near and dear to you is in a violent relationship, an abusive relationship. And underneath the red flags, those bullet points, those are some. I'm not going to read all of them for you. And then over on the, I'm assuming it's not mirrored, it's my left hand. Anyway, the purple squares. Those are warning signs again for the victim, red flags for the victim, but then next to it for the abusers. Maybe you also know somebody in your life who has become an abuser in the relationship. And that's something that you can help with as well. Knowing those red flags and those warning signs. And then what to do, the 2 boxes on the bottom. If you're a victim, what to do. Those are important ones too. Documenting your injuries, telling someone about it, not keeping it to yourself. But very first thing, that first bullet point, deciding that any abuse is too much. And then a few bullet points on what friends or family members can do to help if they know that somebody they love or just know really is in an abusive relationship. Marissa, would you like to add to any of these?
Yes, I want to emphasize the be patient part at the end of the friends and family. I think that what I've seen in my 15 years of doing this work, we tend to see our friends and family want to kind of push their ideas on other people or even question why they stayed as long as they did. But we all know that the data shows that a victim is in its most danger when they are leaving that relationship. So it's not an easy decision, regardless of any age at any time, and especially with our younger individuals, because they're not really sure how they're feeling and what those emotions kind of look like. So be extremely patient and non-judgmental.
I like the non-judgmental that you said too. And that's huge. And so many times we can accidentally come off as judgmental when we are trying to show compassion or care or that we want to help. Having 5 teenagers myself, I know that many times I don't mean to come off judgmental with certain situations, but my over-caring kind of mindset toward them makes it seem that way. So making sure that you pay attention to yourself and how you are presenting yourself when you're trying to help somebody is important as well. Oops, why? It's not letting me change slides. Hang on one sec. There we go. Okay. So, of course, everyone knows that there are things that happen physically, emotionally, mentally to somebody that's being abused. And here's a list of just a few of those things. They can be short-term or long-term effects from an abusive situation. And sometimes it's an abusive situation from when they were a child, and then it turned into a teen dating violence, into a domestic. It can be a cycle. So these are just a handful of them. Anxiety, withdrawing from activities, anything that you see that is abnormal for the teen in your life. They can become more likely to engage in abusive behavior themselves. They have increased fear and guilt and self-blame. They distrust others. They might have weight loss or weight gain, poor attachment disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder. So this data stat right here, 1.5 million teens, this is nationwide, experience dating abuse of some form each year. 1.5 million. But only 33% of those ask for help. I thought that was really important to think about. Anything to add to that, Marissa?
The only thing I would add that we've seen recently in the last 3 or 4 years on the commission side of things, we saw the increase of dating violence through COVID, but we also saw an increase of ADHD diagnosis. And so what we were trying to figure out was like, how is that happening? And a lot of times those PTSD symptoms can mimic ADHD symptoms. So not only are we seeing, we knew that the increase of dating violence was occurring because we had data on that, but we were trying to correlate the two. And so the only thing I would add is that ADHD can mimic those PTSD symptoms. And so when we have kids like that, we try to dig a little deeper if possible, just to figure out the correct diagnosis.
That's a great point. It goes into also when you think a child or a teenager has ADHD and you get them put on medication and that medication isn't helping the ADHD symptoms, that's a good sign that that's not really what it is, and to dig deeper then too. I don't know why my button's not letting me change slides. There we go. So here's some facts. Again, the orange, colorblind apparently, orange box, the 1 in 3 young people experiencing dating abuse, that's nationwide. But then just Tennessee alone, 1 in 10 Tennessee domestic violence victims were children or teens. So 1 in 10, that's huge. 8% of reported domestic violence victims were youth whose offender was their parent, step-parent, or guardian. And like I mentioned earlier, it can very easily start that way because a child becoming a victim or being a victim of abuse, not knowing what that healthy relationship should look like, not knowing what the norm is as far as violence and abuse, and then going into a teen dating relationship where they are being abused, but not knowing it because that's all they knew. 1 in 4 teens, and again, it knows no gender, is in a physically abusive relationship today, and that's nationwide. And then more than 1 in 6 Tennessee high school girls reported experiencing physical dating violence in just the last year, which is significantly higher than anywhere else in the nation and twice as high as the national rate. In the first half of 2020, Marissa mentioned the pandemic a few minutes ago, which this happened 2020. The National Domestic Violence Hotline received 1,302 calls from Tennessee. The National Domestic, so the National Hotline, received over 1,000 calls from Tennessee alone, with 37% of those calls involving children.
We had an additional stat was in the state of Tennessee, we had over 2,000 calls of domestic violence occurring within a home with the child in place that could not receive the services that they needed because we were at our breaking point with the services. We didn't have any to offer.
Sad. A few more stats on this page are, again, the ones in orange are nationwide. 1 in 3 teens experience physical, sexual, and or emotional abuse by a dating partner. And violence in relationships, Marissa mentioned this earlier, can happen super young, especially now. It's younger than it was years ago, even pre-pandemic. So it can start at ages 11 to 17, but it can start younger than that too. And 1 in 4 teens in a relationship report digital abuse, which is another something that we myself anyway, didn't have to deal with or worry about when I was growing up. But it's something that our teens are very much living today. A boy who sees the abuse of his mother is 10 times more likely to abuse his female partner. And that's going back to that. This is what I saw, this is what I know, and to continue that unhealthy form of relationship. A girl that grows up in a home where her father abuses her mother is more than 6 times more likely to be sexually abused than a girl who grows up in a non-abusive home. Again, playing into that, that's all they know. Teens who are victims of abuse experience may be at greater risk for addiction. So we talked a lot about unhealthy and abusive relationships, but I wanted to put this up for you to see some of the differences. Maybe somebody watching this later, even they don't realize that they're in a healthy relationship because that's all they've seen or known. So a healthy relationship, you could find yourself in any of those bullet points with communication and trust, making mutual choices, to being in an unhealthy relationship where there's dishonesty and disrespect. You only wants to spend time with that one person and coercion. And then it goes into the abusive part where it's not just unhealthy, but it takes another step toward the abuse, and they communicate, but in a threatening or hurtful way. They control you. They deny that they're abusing you. They isolate you from your family and friends. Do you have anything to add to any of those?
I don't think so. I mean, it's just the manipulation. I always try to express that to our younger kiddos. And I think they call it gaslighting now. And that was a new term for me because I really didn't understand it. But it's manipulation. And it's amazing how kids will kind of just react to that. So yeah, but manipulation is a big thing for our younger kiddos now.
And that goes into the digital abuse too, the manipulation via social media or different. I mean, there's so many ways to abuse somebody through social media and digital. It's really scary.
Mm-hmm. I will say, and it doesn't have to be, one of the things that I think I'm learning throughout this journey is it doesn't have to be like a dating relationship. There can be abusive friendships as well.
That's true. And it could be any type of friendship relationship, for sure. So you're not alone, whether it be somebody trying to help somebody they know in a situation like this, or they know the abuser and they want to help, or they know the victim and they want to help. There are lots of resources nationally and locally. And I've listed just a few, but there are quite a few others. Locally, there's the Family Justice Center. Obviously, there's the Partnership Families, Children, and Adults. There's the Hamilton County Community Health Hotline. But there's also the National Domestic Violence Hotline, and the Love is Respect is a huge organization that their main focus is teen dating violence and getting the word out there, spreading the awareness, getting victims help. And Love is Respect. There's some 800 numbers all over the screen right now that can help you if you or somebody you know is in need. But what if you are a parent or a guardian and you know that your child or teen is experiencing this? What do you do? This little stat down in the bottom corner of the screen says 82% of parents feel confident that they could recognize if their teen was experiencing dating violence. But more than half of these parents could not correctly identify the warning signs. So that's why we felt it very important to share those warning signs earlier in the presentation, because there are so many, and sometimes they aren't as noticeable, especially if it's not, maybe your child's already dealing with anxiety or depression. So that's not going to be a noticeable sign for you. But to really dig deep, to question your child about their friendships, like Marissa was mentioning, it doesn't have to be about their significant other or their partner, any of their friends. Making sure that you're active and engaged in what they're doing, their activities outside of school. Do you want to share anything else on this, Marissa?
No, I think that's about it.
Okay. That little thought bubble down in the bottom says it's never too early to talk to your teens about healthy relationships and dating violence. Starting conversations is one of the most important steps you can take to help prevent dating violence. And when we say it's not too young, it's not ever too young. Like 7, 8, 9. I'm not saying share details, graphic details or anything with them, but letting them know what it is and what to look for. Marissa had mentioned how much younger it is happening today. So I put this screen in here so that I could share a quick YouTube video, and let me pull that up for you. It's a really short PSA.
I'm only checking your phone because I want this relationship to last.
Go change your clothes. I can't have my partner look better than me when we go out.
You look like you gained weight. Maybe you should skip a meal. Why would you hang out with your friends when you could be spending time with me?
We need to be on the phone tonight so I know when you're going to sleep. I had my friends catfish you to make sure you weren't cheating on me. I broke the condom so we'd be together forever.
You are the most pathetic person I know. Your family doesn't love you.
I'm the only one who could ever love you. Why weren't you where I told you to be after school? If you have sex with me, I won't.
Out you to your parents. I threw away your college acceptance letter. You don't need it anyways.
It's my job to provide and take care of you. I can't trust you being with anyone else.
I know you're cheating on me. I can't prove it.
I slapped you because you shouldn't talk to me like that.
You should have more respect for me.
I can't have me. No one can.
If you break up with me,
I kill myself. I'm gonna hurt you.
You're worthless.
So that we were talking about different warning signs, different ways that abuse can happen. And some of those we were talking about are more hidden than others. Some of those are more hidden than others because you don't know what your child's friend or boyfriend or girlfriend, what they're saying, what they're threatening, what they're doing, unless you have that open communication with your teen and you're asking them these things in order to help them if in case they are in a situation like that. Anything, Marissa?
No.
So now we would like to talk about our Girls Leadership Summit. And Marissa, since you started it, I would love for you to begin sharing on it.
Of course. So we are doing our Girls Leadership Summit in February of 2023. It's February the 11th to be exact. And this idea was birthed out of the increased numbers of dating violence that we saw statewide through the pandemic. Pre-pandemic, I think it was 1 out of every 12. Now we're doing, I think it's 1 out of 6, I believe. So by far, we're the highest. I want to say we're the highest in the South. But we saw that girls needed, not only did they need the knowledge and education, but they also needed to be empowered. When we pulled our data, because we do the state of the child, and when we pull our data, we like to have kind of like some focus groups statewide. So when we actually got a chance to talk to some of the young ladies and boys, really, we found out that it was just a lot of them didn't know if they could say no. A lot of them were unsure if even if it made them feel uncomfortable, was it the wrong thing to do? So we saw that not only did we need to talk about like just the education of it, but we also needed to have our kids feel comfortable with saying, no, this doesn't feel right, or no, I don't want to do this. So we came up with, or the commission decided to do a statewide initiative. And so for us in the Southeast, we're doing the Girls Leadership Summit, Hear Us. It's to help education, awareness, respect, understanding, and support. And then I pulled Sandy on with me to help me get everything together. But we are expecting it to be a really big event. We want to continue with doing this every year. We're not trying to leave the boys out, but I believe the boys already have a summit in place. So we just wanted to make sure that we educated the young ladies as well.
We feel very strongly about the fact that there are potentially more known, not that they're more available, but more known resources in case something happens. This is where you can go. Children's Advocacy Center, Family Justice Center, Partnership for Families, Children, Adults, the ones that I named. But are the preventative resources and services that are local to us, are they known? Are people aware of those? So we'll also have vendor tables throughout we're doing it at UTC in the Student Center, and we'll have vendor tables, and they will be preventative resources and services local to us in Hamilton County. But we'll also have this is your support. This is the resource you can reach out to when you need help. In addition to, Marissa mentioned empowerment. We'll have some female-owned entrepreneur type booths in order to show no matter what you've been through, you can overcome something and you can still do whatever it is that you are wanting to do with your life. The workshop topics will have the girls go through different topics, all related to healthy dating, teen dating, violence awareness. Marissa mentioned a lot of times they don't know what, if you can say no, or is this okay or not, or am I stuck here, or is this abuse, like we were mentioning earlier. And these workshop topics throughout the summit will help girls understand what is okay and what is not okay. We'll also, and I'll let Marissa talk on this, have some parent topic workshops as well.
Yes, we do plan on having, I want to say 3 parent workshops. Okay. And I think we're going to talk about the digital age, trying to get parents up to speed with what's going on online with our kiddos. I'm a parent and I have no idea what some of these apps are. And we're going to talk about parenting with grace. I mean, as a mom in 2022, it's hard. And I think parents, we try to do it all. We try to know everything. We try to stay up to date, but we have to give ourselves some grace as well as our children. All we can do is do our best. So that's where we're gonna speak on parenting with grace. And I think we're gonna talk about mental health and suicide, the increased suicide rate that we're seeing here in the state. But it's increased substantially within the city in Chattanooga as well. And those new numbers came out today. So yeah.
That's scary. So parents and girls, we would love to be able to help educate, help support parents or guardians or adults really that even work with teens and young are welcome. And they can also go through the different vendors during their downtime and visit those resources. And maybe it's a time or a question that they need help and answered without the teen there. So they'll have that opportunity to do that as well. We'll also have, we're hoping, we haven't identified any yet, but I know that there will be some that will be willing, some counselors or therapists on site, on campus to help, because these, especially for girls that have been through something, it can be triggering, some of these topics. So we want to be sure that we are really thinking about their mental health and how to help them and how to support them in the moment, and not just long term or after the fact. After the summit, this is where you can go, but right then and there when they're triggered or a memories, all the things. So to help them, there'll be lunch provided, free t-shirts, which I think that we're quite excited about. The t-shirt, the design is super cute. We have an amazing panel of planning committee members from around the city that are helping us to put this on. And it's going to be an incredible day of education, really. And I'm super excited about it. And I feel like there was something else I was going to say about it, but it left my mind. Marissa, do you have anything else?
No, I'm just excited. I think it's going to be a great day of, like you said, education and empowerment. So I'm excited, and I hope everybody will come.
I agree. We blew through that, and I think it was because maybe I wasn't nervous, but I feel like I speak quicker when I'm talking in front of people, so it sounds like I'm nervous. So I sped through that. Does anybody have any questions that is on with us today, either about what we covered or about the Girls Summit? Not to put them on the spot. It's all good. Dina, we can think of some more to share so that we fill up more time if you would like, because I know that we were supposed to go for an hour and then I talked too fast. Would you like?
Definitely okay. I was thinking when you said it's never too early to discuss teen dating violence, one thing that you can hone in on is not just teen dating violence, but that goes along with bullying. That's, that's just something that you're supposed to learn in kindergarten. And sometimes it's, the bad behaviors learned at home. So if we could talk to, I guess, everyone who has a child in their life and to educate them, it's not too early at 4, 5, and 6 to say, oh, hitting's not okay. Or, doing things like pinching or whatever in anger. None of that's okay. So
Right.
I think that you hit the nail on the head when you said it's just not too early. Definitely too early to get into any specifics of dating or sexual violence, but not too early to just educate on the basics.
Absolutely. And so many times too, sarcasm can go in there too. Like I see my teens sarcastically call maybe their sibling a name and they're like, I was just kidding. I was being sarcastic. Well, no, that's still a form of bullying and you're still being mean and that's still not okay. So for them, they just don't understand the difference. And because of that prefrontal cortex not being completely formed yet, they don't understand. And to have that constant reminder that this isn't okay and this is how the other person might feel. Making me think too on feelings. We talked about big feelings we're going to have as a parent workshop, helping your teens understand those big feelings. Well, part of that goes into society mental health has been such a taboo subject for so long that we don't know what feelings are. We don't understand how we're feeling, or we can't identify them, and then we don't know how to process them, and then we project them on other people, and it's just a whole spiral of unhealthiness that we are cycled generation to generation passing on.
I agree. I like the new language. I like the language of instead of saying, what's wrong with you?
What happened?
Like what happened to you? And, expressing that sometimes sarcasm can be bullying. I think the new generation with the new education and with more saturation of what we give the information to everyone and educate them on, I think that we're going to have a whole new crew coming in. That's just going to be better than even we were. And I love that.
I hope so. I think that you're right. And I pray that it continues that trend. And I think it will. You mentioned what happened to us. There's actually a book that just not too long ago came out by Dr. Bruce Perry and Oprah Winfrey. And it's What Happened. Yeah, What Happened to You. I'm listening to it on Audible. It's amazing. I highly recommend it. But Dr. Bruce Perry is amazing anyway in the field of trauma and brain develop. Anyway, but I also wanted to put in a plug for Rise Up and the workshops. Those topics: healthy relationships, teen dating, violence awareness, big feelings, and helping everything. We also provide to organizations and schools. So if there's one of those topics that we were talking about that you maybe can't get your girls to, or not all of them can make it to the summit, Rise Up can come in and offer those workshops as well on those topics. So just because you aren't able to get the information one way, there's always another way that you can get it.
I love that. That's awesome. Well, and I was thinking too, especially with teens, a lot of times, even as adults, we don't know how to express emotion or how we're feeling. We may be having just a really bad day and we don't know why until we have a check-in. And, as parents or loved ones of teenagers, that frontal lobe is not developed. So, just checking in with them and saying, hey, how do you feel emotionally, may make them kind of check back in. And if they can describe how they're feeling emotionally, a lot of times they can say why they're feeling that way. But I think that goes along with even younger children, but especially with teens.
Absolutely. And starting young, talking to them about feelings so they understand it, is going to be so beneficial in behavioral issues and the different things we see in our teenagers today when they haven't at a young age been taught how to identify these feelings and emotions because their parents didn't know how to teach them that. So that generational cycle that you were talking about, changing it, it's going to be huge.
I think the biggest misconception when we talk about feelings or big feelings is the feeling of sadness or hurt and anger. And so, like, as a therapist, I really try to, or well, when I was practicing, I would really focus on there's a difference there. And it may make you feel the same, but you're probably hurt and not angry. And once you would process all of what was going on, they'd be like, okay, yeah, I think I'm just sad. So
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes somebody walking through it with you most of the time to really understand or realize that it's not something that we naturally think about. Yeah.
Thank you so much. You've done such a great job. And I love that we've kind of hit on several different areas there.
Thank you so much for having us. I won't speak for both Marissa and I, but I know that I enjoyed it and I think that she may have as well. And we appreciate the opportunity, especially to share on something